Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
And welcome to the Lombardi Line here on VSiN. I'm your host, Dave Ross, here in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada at Circa Sports downtown Las Vegas. Of course, the big news of the day, in case you did not hear, major news out of North Carolina. Not only is Bill Belichick coming out of retirement now to become the head coach at UNC, he's taking our GM here from us at VSiN. Yes, Michael Lombardi will be going down to Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick to help rein in the new football program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Here to help me break all of this down, of course, Mike Palm in studio here today at Circa. And Mike, I know this news is very, very surprising to many. It really is historic in many different ways. One, we have never seen an actual GM be hired in college football, right? We've had ADs, we've had money guys now with NIL in year number one. But really, as Bill had said, if I take a job in college football, I'm going to make it NFL style. What more NFL style can you do by bringing in a former GM like Michael Lombardi to help run your operation?
Well, good morning, Dave. Really impactful news for all of us here. And in other news, Bill Belichick will be the head coach.
That's right.
I'm interested. Michael's calling in, by the way,
yeah.
Right? So Michael's going to call in here in the next segment in 15 minutes, and we can ask him these questions. Exactly what is the role for a college GM, right? And how does Michael take his extreme skills, like in draft, one of the things he specialized in, and apply them to college? Obviously, he was a salary cap guy. The whole science of salary cap. How does that apply to NIL? So a lot of questions to ask, and for Michael to answer coming in. It certainly will create a lot of interest around the ACC in North Carolina, and Bill taking his culture, right, the Patriot way,
yes,
and taking it to Tobacco Road. And how that fit is going to be. But, it's unprecedented from the standpoint he never coached in college before. Every job he's had has been a pro job, right? His dad obviously coached there, and there's the photo that came out last week of him at 3 years old sitting in Kenan Stadium when his dad was an assistant coach there in the mid-1950s. So, yeah, there's more questions than there are answers, but we'll attempt to get to them.
Yeah, cannot wait to talk to Michael in the very next segment. Of course, he's going to be down in Chapel Hill today for the introductory press conference. That is the massive news, obviously, with Bill Belichick going to become the new head coach there, and then Michael getting that call subsequently there to help join him as the GM. Look, there are going to be a million questions because we've seen this kind of in the inverse, Mike, where we've seen legendary college coaches go to the NFL, and it has not always worked out, right? Now, Jimmy Johnson maybe broke that mold in the 90s when he went to the NFL from Miami, won a couple Super Bowls there with Dallas. Barry Switzer, of course, who won a championship at Oklahoma, then won a third championship for the Cowboys. But past that, when you look at whether it's a Nick Saban, you look at a Steve Spurrier, normally they haven't worked. Now this is the inverse. We're trying to take the winningest Super Bowl coach, 6-time Super Bowl champion, and then reverse this course and this trend and go from the NFL to college. As Michael had discussed here on this program for the coming weeks, look, it's because it's a new day and age in college football. It is because of NIL. It is because you can run almost a pro-style system in college. Why he thinks this will work. Where do you stand on that? Because it still is college football, but the landscape clearly has changed.
Well, obviously, you're playing with different players every year now,
right,
like it was in the pros. We went from one and done in basketball to that's the case now in football, where guys might play for 5 different teams in the course of their college football career. And as some of the older, more successful coaches are maybe retiring a few years early because they don't want to deal with the portal and with NIL, does it attract some pro coaches? Because now the game resembles how the NFL business is run. You bring up Switzer. I don't put him on any line of drawing.
You don't give him any credit for that one.
Well, if you listen to everybody around the Cowboy program, and you know this, Dave, he was just there.
Correct.
Right? He was there. He was riding along and letting it happen. You're grown men. I don't need to tell you what to do.
And Jerry Jones had said I could get 50 guys to coach this team to a championship, and he proved the theory correct.
Yeah, well, that was the beginning of the end, right?
And then nothing's happened since.
Jimmy walked out of the winter meetings, or the league meetings. In terms of the other way, which you brought up, I would argue outside of Jimmy, I would argue Don Coryell and John Robinson were the most successful pro coaches, although they didn't win a championship. They came in and had winning programs.
Absolutely.
And then John Robinson did go back to college. On the other side of it, and this is a question I'll ask Michael, The last time the greatest head coach in NFL history stepped away from the program and went back to college was Bill Walsh.
Yes.
Who returned to Stanford. Now, remember, he had coached 2 successful years at Stanford before getting the 49ers
Didn't go
job.
that well.
The first year went okay, but the last 2 years, 7-14-1, 2-6 both years in the Pac-10 at that time. So I would like to ask Michael about how will it be different for Bill than it was for Bill Belichick than it was for Bill Walsh. Also, another mentor of Michael's.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what win totals look like for UNC when they come out, because you're already hearing some people say, hey, they can win the ACC next year. It's going to be fascinating to see what this really does. And I will say this, 6.5 is what we're hearing right now on that win total. Michael said 2 days ago on this very program that if you asked Dabo, if you asked any other ACC coach of stature, who do you not want to take the UNC job, they'd probably say Bill Belichick. Because this is going to be a completely different way for kids now. Now, maybe it doesn't resonate with the kids, but it will resonate with the dads and the moms that know who Bill Belichick is, who a Michael Lombardi and that name, what that constitutes when they walk into living rooms now, and what this coaching staff's going to look like. Do you think they can really put this thing together this quickly and flip the fortunes of UNC in year one? Because 6.5 feels like we just saw what SMU did in year number 1 in the ACC. We just saw what Fran Brown did at Syracuse in year number 1 to turn that program back around, hit their win total. Minus $1.70. You don't like laying that kind of juice, but you already see where the expectation levels and how they've already changed in less than 24 hours.
Well, look, let's be honest. The ACC wasn't that deep this year,
No.
right? And SMU steps in year 1 and gets to the title game. It's tied with a minute to go. But by the way, a very well-coached team.
Yep.
Brett Lashley on both sides of the ball. SMU, and I think the committee got it right getting them in. But you talk about recruiting. You're also recruiting in the transfer portal, right? You're not just going into high school players' homes, but now you're trying to attract players from other schools.
Sure.
For one reason or another, it's the money or it's playing time or whether they see their pro path at that program. Mm-hmm. Now, how can you really you're recruiting to something that hasn't happened yet, right? You're going to have to recruit to what he did in New England, because we don't have a college blueprint for him yet.
Do you think it helps, though, obviously, with Michael, with his son on the Oregon staff, with Bill and his son on the Washington staff, that they've got those tentacles out there already in the college system, so that when Michael and Bill go down to Chapel Hill today, they do have already some tentacles out there in college football?
I think you make an excellent point there, Dave, that they do have their feelers and they have their kids involved, and it's a family business for both of them.
That's right.
Let's be honest.
Yep. Absolutely. So it's absolutely fascinating. It's an exciting day for us. Obviously, we're going to keep this relationship going with Michael until his duties at UNC say he can't do it anymore, but he will join us in the very next segment. So don't go anywhere. Going to have Michael Lombardi join us and hear what it's like down there in Chapel Hill today. Harry Gagnon is going to join the program here in hour number 1. Cannot wait to get his thoughts on Thursday Night Football and beyond. And Wes Reynolds is going to join us in hour number 2. But Mike, it's great to have you in studio here for this show as well. We do have Thursday Night Football tonight, and we've got the Rams and the 49ers to kick off week number 15. I cannot believe it's already week number 15 in the NFL. I'm a little surprised, and when this number came out at 2.5, I kept waiting for this to get down closer to a pick'em. It hasn't done that. As a matter of fact, it's gone the other way, and you're seeing some 3s out there now populate with San Francisco. What am I missing? Because I keep going, how are the banged-up Niners and maybe no Bosa, Trent Williams with the personal issues and the tragedy in his family, doesn't look like they're going to be able to go. You don't have a running back, essentially. It looks like you're going to go to Patrick Taylor. Might be the guy tonight if Garendo can't go with the foot. You already know about CMC and Mason that are already on the IL. I just look at this and I go, why is this number going in the favor of the Niners?
Yeah, it's one of the few times we're going to say the Rams are the healthy team in a game, right? I mean, all year we've been saying the Rams are on the mend. The Rams are the guy when they 3 weeks, they're going to be healthy. Don't want to play them in the playoffs when they're healthy. And obviously you saw what they did to the Bills last week from an offensive standpoint. I don't know how much we can draw from the Bears game. I mean, that first half was one of the biggest anomalies statistically that you'll ever see in a football game.
Over 300 to less
320 yards to 4. The Bears are totally lost there. I'm with you. I thought this number would end up at 1, and yet you can grab 3 right now.
It's insane.
It is insane.
It feels trappy to me, though. Like my antenna's gone up, Mike, that I say, why am I not reading this the way the numbers are going?
Well, I think traveling team on the short week is always an issue, right?
Yep.
It always favors the home team. But you go back and you look. I mean, this was one of the key games early in the year for the 49ers. Remember, they blew leads to Arizona and to the Rams. Double-digit fourth-quarter leads, which really started the spiral downhill before they became so banged up.
And then they did the same thing against Seattle, and that's why they're really up against it here in the division. It is clearly a must-win for the Niners. No more room for error here. For the Rams, who are right now just a game back of Seattle in the West, I don't know that these teams can realistically look at a wild card, Mike. They got to be thinking it's division or bust.
It's a one-bid league, right? One-bid division,
That's all
I say that.
Yep. So, again, no Trent Williams tonight. No Ben Bartz, as we discussed yesterday here. He was already a backup at the guard position here for the Niners. For the Garindo is listed as questionable, and so is Nick Bosa, Khalil Davis, and Drake Greenlaw. If all of those guys were able to go, you would feel like that'd give a much better opportunity, obviously, for the Niners to win. How about this? Brock Purdy's played on Thursday Night Football 4 times. Niners are 4-0 straight up in ATS, covering the spread by almost 8 points per game. But you see that injury list here for the Niners, Mike. I mean, it's deep, and these are guys you really need if you're going to make any sort of a run.
Yeah, I guess the argument to the other fact is, too, is this off a big win for the Rams, right? Yeah. You're beating the Bills, who are a lot of people, including Michael's pick when we did Pressing 3 last week to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So you're coming off a high. This is sell high spot for them. I mean, there's different angles to this game, but I liked a lot what I saw. Let's not forget they were up 18 in the fourth quarter of that game, and the Bills got it close until McDermott decided to run a sneak and use one of his 3 timeouts.
If they had gagged that away, it would have been one of the all-time gag jobs, but they did hold on for that 2-point win on Sunday against the Rams. Okay, everybody. When we come back, we're going down to Chapel Hill to catch up with the new GM of North Carolina football. How about that? Michael Lombardi joins the program. That's next.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up on Money Moves, Matt Brown joins me, Stormy Bonantoni, as we get you ready for Thursday night football between the Rams and 49ers. Then looking at the NFL playoff picture, we'll see which teams belong at the Super Bowl and if we're letting them in or kicking them out of our club NOLA 59. Sean Green of the Sports Gambling Podcast will join us to explain what's going on in Philly and if they have what it takes to cover against the red-hot Steelers. We'll have all that and more from noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, right here on VSiN.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are back in the Thursday edition of the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross and Mike Palm here at Circus Sports, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Mike, what a treat. We've got the man of the hour right now getting ready to get down there to Chapel Hill. Michael Lombardi joins the program now. Follow him on X as I do at MLombardiNFL. And now we can say for the first time, the new GM of UNC football. Michael, congratulations. I know it's got to be a whirlwind for you in the last 24 hours. Can you tell us just how everything unfolded yesterday once the news became official that Bill Belichick was taking over at UNC?
Well, thank you, David. It's certainly a pleasure to be here. And I want to thank everybody at VSiN who has been listening to the Lombardi Line, listened to GM Shuffle, and has made me really thankful for the job that I have, and especially the Musburger family and Bill A.D. They've been incredible to me. But this came together because Bill wanted to go back to college. I think if you read the David Halberstam book, Education of a Coach, Halberstam predicted that one day Belichick would go back to college football because he values teaching so much. And I think the landscape of college football has changed dramatically in the sense that it is pay for play. And, you know, you've got to evaluate the players on the roster. You've got to put a dollar sign on the player. And then you've got to be able to motivate and coach within the framework of monetary compensation. So, you know, for me and my relationship with Coach Belichick, once he decided he wanted to do this, and then he asked me if I wanted to do it, then, you know, I thought, why not? This is the perfect time, the perfect setting, and for my wife and I to go back down there and enjoy, you know, college football in the most incredible little town that is going to be a football town in the future.
Michael, congratulations as well from me. Our relationship has been a lot over the past years, and I thank you for that and wish you success. You've talked about how the role and how college football landscape has changed to resemble the pros. Speak to me about how it will be different from what you did as a player personnel person and a GM in the NFL to what you will do as this new GM position in Division I college football.
Not much, Mike. I think we're going to build a pro personnel department, and that pro personnel department really will be the transfer portal. So that will be what we build there to monitor all the college teams, whether it's in the ACC, the Big Ten, the Southeast Conference, or in any conference, right? The new Pac-12. So you have to monitor all the players just like you would in pro football. And then obviously you'll have a director of college scouting, but that guy will be the director of high school scouting and monitor all the high schools. North Carolina has a great fan base. They have a tremendous recruiting area in the Tidewater area in Virginia. They haven't been into Florida as much in recent years, but there has been a time where they were very good in that state. So we're going to try to expand it to a national program, which it should be. I mean, when you mention North Carolina, that brand is significant. It may be associated with basketball, but we're going to bring that brand out on a national level. We've had two quarterbacks drafted in the first pick in the first round, Mitchell Trubisky and Drake May, and so it has an appeal to quarterbacks, and we're going to continue that along with having a pro-style offense. So, you know, I think the job's going to stay pretty much like it was. We're just going to reframe the name of the job, but it's going to be pretty much the same, and it's going to be 24/7. The difference will be there's no structure, right? We won't have a draft, and there'll be deadlines in terms of the portal, but we can work around that.
Michael, it's fascinating. You can hear the excitement in your voice of this new challenge and what it does mean to you and Bill Belichick getting the band back together as it is. How did that translate? When you guys discussed it, you and Bill, why did you know this was the right move for both of you to go down to Chapel Hill at this time?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with North Carolina. I mean, I think when you look at the school, and it goes back to 1992, it's kind of ironic how things become they turn over, right? So in 1992, we're on the campus of North Carolina. It was cold in Cleveland. We were getting ready for the draft, and we went down there because you're in that research triangle where you have about 5 different schools that you can scout, right? So we went down there and we stayed at the Carolina Inn, which is right on campus. We brought Jim Schwartz was our one of our scouting assistants, who's now the defense coordinator of the Browns. We set up a little office down there. We watched tape all day. We went for a jog, went to a baseball game, and we both looked at each other. And this is 1992, and we said, "How the hell can't they win here?" And I think that's a true story, and that is really what sparked this. Is like you're on that campus, and you look around and you say, "How can't they win here?" And I'm not saying Mac Brown didn't win, but I'm talking about winning at a level to get to this 12-team playoff.
Michael, I want to talk about the argument about cultural fit. And I understand North Carolina isn't the Deep South, but, in recent years, we've seen Brian Harsin go from the Pacific Northwest to the Plains of Jordan. That didn't work out. Joe Moorhead from Pittsburgh in the Rust Belt to Mississippi State. That didn't work out. And you could even argue Kalen DeBoer from South Carolina to Tuscaloosa. Disappointing that they don't make the playoffs. You obviously from New Jersey, and you and Bill path has been in northern states or in the far west, not in the South. Do you think there's any challenge to a cultural fit?
Well, I'm sure I'll probably have a harder time getting great Italian food, but that's what I have Millie for. So, I think to me, look, I think this is all about, do you want to be a great player? Do you want to be a pro? And territory doesn't really matter. And the language that we're going to speak won't have a draw, but it's going to have an appeal to these players if they want to go on and play pro football. And I think that's what we have to resonate to. Look, I'm sure there'll be a cultural shift, and I'm sure there are things that'll be different there. And I'm sure I don't know if I'll be quite like the guy in My Cousin Vinny wondering what the hell's going on and talking about Utes, but I will be, we will be able to connect on a football level, which I think is the most important thing.
Michael, we talk a lot and kid a lot about, like day one, this would be what I do on day one of my administration, right? You and Bill with this new administration, what are those day one things that you're really going to look to change down there at UNC?
Well, because of the portal and because of all the changes that go on within the portal, I mean, we got to get a quarterback. You got to get offensive and defensive linemen. It's the same thing. Nothing's really going to change on this at all, because at the end of the day, we're going to build a football team the same way we've always built a football team, inside out, and with the offensive line, with the quarterback, and all the things that I talked about on VSiN, on the Lombardi Line, and on GM Shuffle. That's going to be the manifesto for when we go down there. That's going to be the first thing first. Do we have a quarterback? Can we protect? Do we have an offensive line? Do we have a defensive line? Those are the pillars that we're going to start and stress and build on for the remainder of our time. So I think that's the first action that we have to take. It's not about adding players. It's about building the team.
Michael, the nearest comp I can draw to this is ironically also another mentor of yours. The last time the greatest coach in NFL history stepped away from the pro game and went back to college was Bill Walsh, who returned to Stanford. And although he had a successful first year in 92, 93 and 94 were not good. 7-14-1, 2-6 both years in the Pac-10. Why will this be different for Bill Belichick than it was for Bill Walsh?
Well, I think the rules were different, Mike. I mean, Bill had to rely on recruiting. The academic standards at Stanford are just really challenging. And because it was about, do you want to come to school here? You're competing against teams that had more resources to help players. Now the field's somewhat balanced. I mean, we see it with this 12-team playoff. Who could have ever thought that Indiana was going to go undefeated until the Ohio State game? I think a lot of this is because of the NIL. Look, do I think this would have happened without the players getting paid in NIL? Probably not, because it all comes down to resources and how much commitment people want to make. So I think the landscape is completely different now, and that's why Nick Saban, with 20 guys wanting to get into his office for a raise, left, and that's why Bill Belichick will enter, because he's used to having 20 guys at his office who want a raise.
Michael, you know how this works and how quickly things change in 24 hours. We've already got a win total next year for UNC. It's sitting at 6.5. Heavy juice to the over minus $1.70. That is mad respect for you and Bill Belichick in year one. But seriously, the goal is, right, it's college football playoff, because you mentioned SMU. We saw how close Syracuse got there in the ACC. Are you guys already thinking in those terms that we can flip this thing around quickly?
Well, I think what we're thinking about is how are we going to build this team the right way. I think that's the most important thing. And then I know this, we're going to have the greatest coach of all time coaching the team, and he's going to coach the coaches. And we're going to be really good at situational football, and we're going to be really detailed, and we're going to be really a mentally tough football team. And I don't know how those translates into wins, but that's what the program's going to stand for.
Michael, congratulations on this move. I know you got a million things to do, putting a staff together, getting in there and evaluating talent. But thank you for all you've done on VSiN, and much success to you. Instead of wishing you good luck, we'll say congrats early.
Absolutely, Michael.
Well, thank you, and wish Derek Stevens. Look, I appreciate everything from Circa and everybody who's been involved with VSiN. It's been the best 6 years of my life. It was a blessing to be able to work for this network and to be able to connect to people, whether it's in the betting community or just great football fans. So I've been really blessed. My wife and I are ecstatic about this next move, but we do leave bittersweet because of all the great things that have happened with Derek and the Musburger family. Thank you, guys.
Well, you know that we're all rooting for you here. You've got new fans out in the desert now that we're all going to bleed Carolina blue. So, Michael, go get them. We'll be watching the introductory press conference. Best of luck and congratulations once again from everybody here at VSiN.
Thank you both.
There he is, everybody. Michael Lombardi, the new GM of UNC football. Absolutely amazing, joining us here in the Progressive Guest Line. Let's get to more about what Michael just talked about. We're going to have Harry Gagnon join the program as well next to look at Thursday Night Football. That's all coming ahead here on the Lombardi Line.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to vsin.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Back here on the Lombardi Line, Dave Ross, Mike Palm coming at you here from Circus Sports. Harry Gagnon standing by. Going to get to Harry here in just 1 second, but we did just have the man of the hour on with us in the last segment, Michael Lombardi, en route right now down to Chapel Hill for that introductory press conference. Bill Belichick, of course, the new head coach. Michael, the new GM at Carolina football. Great conversation we just had with Michael. What's your biggest takeaway from that?
They need to recruit Florida better. I thought that was one of the things of Notre Dame going to the ACC was you're going to be able to recruit Florida better because you're going to play in Florida at least every other year. Of course, now the conferences change all the time. And then talked about, the pro player department like they have in the NFL is going to be the transfer portal people.
Yeah.
We're going to be evaluating already college athletes. And then you'll probably have a separate wing of that scouting the high school players, right? So it's interesting. They seem to have a game plan. Obviously, they've talked about this for a while.
Yeah,
right?
they've got a game plan. They're hitting the ground running. You can tell it. You can hear it in Michael's voice. I took away, too, the 757, talk about Tidewater, my neck of the woods where I grew up in Virginia Beach. And that's where the guys like Michael Vick came out of. And he's going to have to, North Carolina is going to have to recruit that area as well, which kind of got seceded a little bit to Virginia Techs of the world and that sort of area. They're going to have to try to buy back into that area for a lot of talent right there in the 757 in that Tidewater area. By the way, right now on the homepage, you go to VSiN.com. Michael and I talked about it here in the Lombardi Line a week ago. He kind of alluded to what might be happening with the Carolina, why it could be a good fit for Bill Belichick. It's all there for you when you go to VSiN.com. And again, become a VSiN Pro subscriber as little as $9.99 to get access to all of our articles on college basketball with Greg Hoops Peterson. We've got Adam Burke talking about college football playoffs, Steve Mackin and his great numbers. Jonathan Davis, you're a puckhead. We got you covered there. So again, all you've got to do, $9.99, you get access to VSiN.com and become a VSiN Pro subscriber. Right now, let's go back to the Progressive Guest Line, catch up with our guy, Harry Gagnon. You can follow Harry as I do at AAOHarry on X. He is the host of the Against All Odds podcast and joins us now again. Harry, boy, it's been a wild 24 hours, my friend. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Thursday night football here between the Niners and the Rams. But first of all, I know you and Michael have a long-standing relationship. What did you make of the news yesterday?
Yeah, wow, that was something. Morning, guys. Yeah, that was something. I just want to wish Michael congratulations. I mean, he's been fantastic to me in my career and everything. He's been a guest numerous times with me and Cousin Sal on Against All Odds. When the days over at the Ringer as well. So I want to wish Michael congratulations. But boy, yeah, guys, this is fantastic news. I wish him the best. I'm a Tar Heel fan now. I'm rooting for him. It's going to be great stuff.
I think that's the way we all feel.
You guys are okay.
Yeah, we're going to be rooting for Carolina as well. We talked about the win total already at 6.5, juiced at minus $1.70. Mike and I talked a little bit about it off the top of the show here, Harry. I cannot understand why here at Circa and elsewhere, we're up to 3 now on the Niners. Did you anticipate this going this way? Because they are kind of like Hawkeye and Pierce. They are a walking mash unit right now.
They are, but, I will say this. I know it was the Bears last week, but it is the best San Francisco it's looked in over a month, right? I mean, they did look good last week. I mean, I know they've been banged up like crazy. So you know what I'm going to do, Dave? I'm going to do a teaser here, guys. I'm going to do a teaser. I'm going to take San Francisco. I know you don't love going this way, Dave, a lot of times, but I'm going to go San Francisco plus the 3 on a 6-point teaser and under 55.5. Like I said, it was the Bears, but San Francisco needs this game bad. And after playing last week, maybe they got a little bit more confidence at 6-7 and having lost to LA already in a game where they actually dominated for 55 minutes that game. You got to have this one. You got to show up. The Rams, I know, are riding high, but I think Purdy keeps the Niners in this one. Had a nice game last week. I'm going to take a field goal here in case they lose by a field goal. It's a push at least. And like I said, I do like the under 55.5 on a teaser here, guys. San Francisco games this year have gone under 55 points in 12 of 13, and it's gone under 55 in the last 10 out of 12 meetings between these two.
Harry, last week against the Bills, Puka Nacua had a catch that might have been better than Beckham's against the
on the
Cowboys.
Sideline.
Fingertips and two toes touchdown. Maybe the best catch I've ever seen. And it didn't happen at the end of a game or in the end zone. But you're going to take Nacua over 80 receiving yards tonight.
Yeah, look, Mike, you got to lay a little price at 155. But I've been on fire with these player props on Thursday night, and I mean, the guy's a stud, an absolute stud. You're right about that catch. And in only 8 games this season, Nacua still leads the Rams in receiving yards. He went for 147 in his rookie season in the game versus San Fran. Nacua, you mentioned last week, had 162 in that classic versus Buffalo, and he's at least 98 yards or more in 4 of his last 5 games, even banged up. 80 or more for Nacua. I think that's a lock.
Harry, by the way, speaking of you being on fire, last week you gave out a little bit of juice on David Montgomery, anytime touchdown. He got the first touchdown, first drive of the game, and I was like, Harry strikes again, baby, on fire in those player props. You do some unorthodox things, right? So we talk about teasing through 0. You've done that here with the Niners, but you'll do it in college football as well. What about in this Army-Navy game? What are you looking like here for this one in Annapolis or in Philly?
Yeah, how about another teaser?
Yeah.
Another teaser here, guys. Look, I do like Army, but I really don't like laying that type of number when you like the under too. So I'm going to go Army -0.5 just to win the game, and I'm going to go under 45.5. Army, I just think flat out it's a better team, and on defense they give up just 180 points all season in 12 games. The quarterback Bryson Daly dominates on the ground in this one. I think no more than 13 for Navy here. And in the last 12 meetings have gone under 45 points. In the last 12 meetings, have gone under 45 total points. And the exact 45 teaser number here would have won 6 of the last 8 with Army winning the game. So give me Army -0.5 just to win the game. And under 45.5, guys.
It's at Northwest Stadium, and Mike Palm saved me. It's in Landover, Maryland, which I used to cover Redskin games there. I didn't know they switched this thing to Northwest Stadium. I can't keep track of these name changes, Mike.
I can't either. FedEx and
FedEx.
FedEx Field, right?
FedEx Field. Thank you, Harry. Exactly.
That's what we know it as.
That's how we know it.
I'm upset because if you'd have bet this look ahead with Army-Navy, this game was a pick. This game was a pick a month ago, and now Army's 6.5. Harry, let's round it out with a money line parlay in the pros that plays +150. You're going to go with those Commanders that we just mentioned from Northwest Field. The Bengals, Ravens, and Vikings.
Yeah, look, this parlay pays +160. I think I hit everything on the show here last week.
Yeah, you did.
Except, I swept the board. So listen, why not here? I mean, +160, 4-leg money line parlay. Commanders money line coming off a bye week. Got the guys healthy. The last game they played, they put up 42 against Tennessee. I think Washington takes care of business in the Big Easy versus the Saints. I like the Bengals to win straight up. Burrow and the Bengals keep their slim playoff hopes alive. Will Levis for the Titans. Last 7 starts at home. He's 0-7. Doesn't have a win at home. Ravens over the Giants. Look, still fighting for that AFC North crown. New York Giants, 7 home games, 6 total touchdowns this year. Baltimore, easy winner. And on Monday night, guys, how about the Vikings? The Vikings, Skol, baby, Skol. Minnesota won a close one in Chicago. Bears scored 11 points in the last 22 seconds to send it to overtime. But here, no overtime is going to be needed. Darnold and this explosive offense get it done. The defense takes care of Caleb Williams. Vikings money line, Ravens money line, Bengals money line, Commanders money line pays +160, guys.
The reason why that got a reaction from me, Harry, you're talking about the first time they played. Vikings were 3.5 that day, and somehow didn't cover.
They were.
One of the more ridiculous comebacks that you see. Then, of course, they win by 3 in overtime with that field goal. Very quickly before we let you go, Texas and Oregon are the co-favorites at +360 to win the college football playoff, the inaugural version of. Georgia's +450. Ohio State 475. Do you like the chalky plays to win this thing, or do you think somebody can upset the apple cart?
Well, before the season started on Against All Odds, when we gave out our picks, let me just go that last year I gave out Michigan at 10-1 to start the season. So caught the winner, looking for 2 in a row. I stayed in the Big Ten this year, but I didn't take Ohio State. I took Penn State at the beginning of the season at 20-1. I'm still sticking to it. I know they can't win a big game. I know a lot of it's on the line for Franklin, but They've got quarterback in Alar. They've got good running backs. Tyler Warren is probably the best tight end in college football. I think Penn State can do it. The path that they were given by the committee is unbelievable. SMU at home, and then you got to play Boise out here in Arizona. It's not a terrible road for them. And then even if they get win those two and then get probably Georgia, we're not sure what Beck's situation is and everything like that. It's a nice road for Penn State, so I'm going to stick with them. I like them in the bottom half of the bracket.
Yeah, you got a much better number, 20-1, 6-1 now for Penn State to win the Natty. Harry, appreciate the time, man. Knock 'em dead tonight. Can't wait to watch, and we'll catch up again soon.
David, Mike, take care, guys.
Thanks,
there he
Harry.
is, Harry Gagnon. Great stuff there. By the way, Hoopheads out there, all you have to do right now, new game at DraftKings Pick6, official partner of the NBA. Very simple. All you got to do is download the DraftKings Pick6 app. When you select two or more players, you're going to choose if they have more or less of a stat like points, rebounds, three-pointers, and more. New Pick6 players can play $5, get 50 in Pick6 credits. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, or the Pick6 app, rather. Use code VSiN. That's the code VSIN for new customers. Play 5, get 50 in Pick6 credits. Back with Mike to talk some injuries in the NFL.
Got a good thing coming. Just wait and see. It's a good.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are back on the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross and Mike Palm here in studio today. Mike just told me a story about Emmitt Smith being here at Circus Sports. You go up to the great Emmitt Smith, who, by the way, and I know everybody knows I'm a Cowboy homer. Emmitt Smith, to me, is the most underrated, great Hall of Fame football player of all time. He still doesn't get the credit he's due.
No, I called him the accumulator. He didn't like that either. But well, he came up and I said, Emmitt Smith, what are you doing here? I was told we were meeting the greatest Gator running back of all time. Where's Fred Taylor? He said, I can call him. He's got a restaurant here in town.
Emmitt.
Yeah, Emmitt. So we were talking some business things and him and his team. Yeah.
Great running back, by the way, America.
How about when he held out those 2 games? They lost them both.
I
said that about the holdout. He said, I did not hold out. I did not have a contract.
That is true.
That's the wrong narrative 30 years later is that I held out. And
he did not hold out.
I couldn't have played. It was been illegal. But against the union, I had no contract, so I did not hold out.
Can you tell me who the backup running back was?
I can't.
Sherman Williams.
Ron Springs? No, that's a little too far back.
They had Swerve and Curvin and Sherman Williams. Didn't work out. 0-2 for the Cowboys. Then they got Emmitt back. They won the Super Bowl. I don't think the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl this year. We know that. They've already been eliminated from postseason contention. They're going to make a quarterback change because Drew Lock has got a heel injury. So, hey, Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito back in their biggest number of the year. And it's not for a home team. It's a road team. The Ravens going to the Meadowlands. It's up to 16, Mike Palm.
We got to 16.5. We moved it 2.5 points off the news from 14 to 16.
From Locke to DeVito.
That's a little bit much, isn't it?
I feel it's a little much.
The short sample of DeVito wasn't. I remember that game they played against the Jets last year, and I said the team that wins the flip in overtime should kick off because you want to be on defense and try to get a short field. I want to ask you this about this game from a survivor perspective.
Bring it.
Okay, we're down to 51 entries, 49 people. 2 have 2 left. To me, the big conundrum is if you still have Baltimore and 24 of the 51 still have Baltimore, do you use them this week or do you save them for Christmas at Houston? And so my question would be, who else would you need to have this week to save them for Christmas, or who else would you need to have on Christmas to use them this week?
Well, there's no other double-digit spreads, obviously, out there. The other big one is Commanders on the road, 7.5 at the Saints, no Derek Carr. Maybe you could look at that, and we'll talk about that game a little bit more, too. But here's my only concern for this game. Look, obviously the Ravens are 16.5-point favorites here at Circa for a reason. And that reason is, one, the Giants were awful anyway, and now you're down back to your third-string quarterback without Drew Lock, and Danny Dimes isn't even on the roster. He's been cut from the team. He's gone. So now you look at it and I go, why do the Ravens let teams hang around? Like, if you're in Survivor, it should be an unnecessary sweat. But Mike Palm, they do have a way. Go back to week 2 against the Raiders, 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, right? That shouldn't be a sweat if you had them in Survivor that week. And yet they ended up losing the game outright. Again, that should not translate, but weirder things have happened, and we saw what happened with the Eagles last week. They're a Leggett rolling touchdown into the end zone from being the biggest point spread of that week last week, 12.5, not only not covering, but possibly losing the game outright.
Speaking of the Eagles, the Ravens lose to the Eagles in a game that, once again, Justin Tucker is costing this team.
Oh, boy.
And I know it's hard to make that decision, but I said – at the preview, I shouted from the mountaintop in August, this guy's going to fall off a cliff this year.
Oh.
Anyhow, speaking of the Eagles, they lost to the Eagles in that game. But now, still, even with that loss, Lamar is 23-2 against the NFC. And the margin of victory cover is like more than 5 points over the cover.
He does own the NFC.
He owns the NFC, and here's an NFC team in the Giants. So it does seem like a free score. Would I ever lay 16.5? Of course not.
Back to your original question about Circa and who am I to tell a Survivor of how to do your strategy. But I would think that is a tenuous game on Christmas Day at Houston. You would think
they're all tenuous games.
They are, but you would think like that Houston at that point might have already wrapped up the division, so maybe it makes it less tenuous because the South is so bad. They can actually wrap it up this week with a Colts loss, and Colts are 4-point dogs in Denver, and a Houston win. They're small favorites at home against Miami. If that happens, Houston division's over, and they're not moving up anywhere else. I think they're going to be slotted into their spot in the AFC playoff. So I wonder if that would change the way they approach that Christmas Day game.
It's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that. The other ones are tough, right? Kansas City at Pittsburgh. That game, I saw a look ahead for that game a pick. Okay.
Why can't Pittsburgh win the game? Right.
The other one is Seattle at Chicago. This is a road game, which is the regular Thursday night game, but it's part of what we put into the Christmas 3-game window. So I mean, would you feel confident enough to save Chicago? Now there's like out of the 51, there's I think it's 11 or 12 that don't have any of the favorites available, and I'm assuming Kansas City was going to be a slight favorite when that game kicks, but that could be wrong too.
Right.
Pittsburgh could be a point home favorite, so it'll be very interesting. I know people have said, forget about it. If you have the Ravens, you must use them here and then figure out what you're doing on Christmas. But if I had the Commanders or I had one of these others, I would like to have the Ravens at Christmas,
especially if the Texans have already wrapped it up. Not a bad way to look. Darren Rizzi might be coaching for a full-time job. He's the interim guy right now down there in Nolens, and he says it's fair to say that Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler are competing to start off the week this year. Now, if you go back to that Denver debacle on the Thursday night game, you remember they went to the backup, and Jake Haener was like doing calisthenics waiting to get loose to get in there. And I kept thinking, why aren't they going to Rattler? And they went to Haener first, but then Spencer Rattler filled in. It looks like Derek Carr obviously is going to be out with that wrist and concussion protocol. What do you make of this? Because it is 7.5 at home. Does it make a difference to you, Mike Palm? Who is the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I would prefer Rattler, but I'm probably going to stay away from this game anyhow. I really thought Daniels was hurt in that game against the Cowboys. I mean, they looked so bad for the first 3 quarters, almost full 3 quarters. They bounced back against Tennessee. And I have to tell you this, and I've been very critical of Brian Callahan that they only scored 6 points against the Jaguars.
Yep.
Jaguars give up 400 yards a game. It's the worst in the NFL. I thought Callahan was so concerned about not giving Mac Jones any time at the end of the game. He forgot to score a touchdown. They just kept running the ball short. Like, we don't want to give Mac Jones 90 seconds. This Tennessee team plays hard. They play hard every week. They give you the full 60. So, that being said, Washington looked really good against Tennessee. They
like I said, I just don't like laying 7.5 on the road.
Yeah,
I know it's Haener and Rattler.
And from a Survivor perspective, I don't like playing any road teams.
Right?
I have 2 rules: no road teams, no division games.
What about Cliff Kingsbury after after Thanksgiving? He's like he turns into a pumpkin. Like the offense, it's a tradition, whether it's in college, whether it's at Arizona, and it's happening so far with the Commanders. Now that game, notwithstanding against Tennessee, maybe they flipped that script a little bit. But
they did get up 28-0, and then there was a lull for about 2 quarters,
sure.
and then they poured it on again at the end.
7.5 is that number right now down there in the Big Easy. How about this for Chiefs backers out there? If you're looking in the futures market here, we already know the rich get richer sometimes. Andy Reid says that Hollywood Brown, who's had a shoulder issue, is, quote, getting close, still needs to be cleared to return. But the news there really is not so much this week, but that when the Chiefs go to battle to try to make it a three-peat, they're going to have Hollywood Brown. And we talk about speed on the outside, another weapon for Patrick Mahomes. Could this offense open up again? Because it's been very conservative.
I don't think so, because the line is so bad, Dave. He doesn't have any time to throw the ball. You noticed the drive before the half, which was their best drive of the game against the Chargers. Everything is 3 steps. Everything is quick. It's little button routes to Kelsey. Nothing down the field at all. And I know you don't have a lot of speed, but he doesn't have time to throw the ball.
No.
They're moving and mixing pieces around trying to protect him. You can see he's getting very frustrated. But obviously this adds a weapon to it. But they got to figure out to give him 5 seconds, that he can sit back and throw the ball. He's not even has the ability to roll out and extend plays.
It's such rich people problems that you're 12-1, right? And we're talking about how
much, if this wasn't Reid and Mahomes, how much would everybody be screaming frauds?
If Sirianni was the head coach, we say, the Titanic's going to hit any second. By the way, when you look at their wins losses here at this 12-1, I mean, it's astounding. By the way, the last 2 weeks, goal score got me there. 19-17, the last 2 weeks, the exact score. That's rare. 4 games that they've won. 19, 19, 17, and 16. Mike, that's not modern-day NFL football.
To become a defensive team. They've really changed their team. As much as Saban went from becoming a defensive coach at Alabama to opening up and becoming great offenses, they've gone from having this dynamic offense to winning with their defense. And, you can say the Broncos block kick is probably the worst. The Raiders mismanagement of the clock. I mean, it's just something. How about the Chargers? 2 consecutive drives. Boom, down the field. Boom, down there. They're never going to sniff the end zone again.
And then they got the football back and said, we're not going to give it to them again. And then they just run out the clock and kick it at the gun and doink it in. That's the way they do it. Very quickly, Aiden O'Connell is going to participate in walkthroughs. I thought he was dead. I mean, he's in a walking, but he's got.
He was dead when he was at Purdue. How is this guy a starting quarterback? What evidence has anyone seen to say this guy is going to be a successful starting quarterback in the NFL? I haven't seen it.
I haven't either. Very quickly, in sports betting and trading, probability is a key to success, Mike Palm. Discover the power of high probability trading with Todd Bubba Horowitz. He's a former floor trader and sports bettor with over 45 years of experience. So visit BubbaTrading.com/VSiN. Use code VSiN500. Save $500. Don't miss the chance to gain the edge in your trading game today. That's BubbaTrading.com/VSiN. Use the promo code VSiN500. When we come back, hour number 2 of the Lombardi Line, we'll start off with Thursday night football between the Niners and the Rams. That's next here on VSiN.
Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard share their knowledge of sports, gambling, and pop culture on Follow the Money at a new